So I think as we've seen the ecosystem changing, we're seeing more and more the importance of first-party data, whether that's on the publisher or the brand side. The idea of third-party cookies and using mobile device IDs for targeting and personalization and measurement is going away. And instead, those brands and those publishers who have first-party data can make connections between each other and can drive a meaningful consumer experience. So we often talk about driving first-party data acquisition on the publisher side and having publishers develop relationships, but it's just as important on the brand side. Imagine today you visit a brand site, let's say it's an auto manufacturer. You go through the process of building out your car. So you pick the color, you pick the seats. At the end, it asks you to share your personal information, so your email address, maybe a phone number, so that they can connect you with a dealer, so that they can sell you the car. But let's say that halfway through, a distraction happens. You have to jump off the site, deal with your kids who are learning at home, go deal with that. Well, now, today, that brand would retarget you using a third-party cookie and say, hey, we know this, we know you were looking at a red car, there was an SUV, all of these details. Well, in the future, that's going to be not possible. As you look at the deprecation of third-party cookies, unless the brand has that first-party relationship where you've shared your email address, you've shared your phone number, they're not going to be able to communicate with you and retarget you after your site experience. So we are advocating for brands to drive more and more login experiences on their sites. So instead of, for example, getting the information at the end of the car buying process, get it at the beginning of the car buying process. To go ahead and design the car, ask someone to share their email address. Ask someone to share their phone number so that they can get the latest sale information. Ask them, to share their address so that you can send a newsletter to their house. So I think more and more we're saying that brands need to have a value exchange, just like publishers do on their sites, to drive those first-party relationships so that more and more of their user traffic becomes addressable. Once they have that relationship, once they have that email address, that phone number, then they're able to personalize advertising. They're able to retarget that consumer. They're able to engage with that consumer and finish out the initial buying experience and start a meaningful consumer journey. The iOS 14 changes are a big deal for the ecosystem. This is a major change. We expect there to be substantial changes in the scale of IDFAs out there. Each app is now going to have to ask for consent for the IDFA, for that device data, that app data that they previously got. We suspect that many users may not consent. If you look at location data services, which have been available on the iPhone for a while, where users, a box pops up, asks users to share their consent there, we've seen opt-in rates of around 30%, opt-out rates of around 70%. So 70% opt-out for location services, which often will include things like Google Maps and Uber, where you really want to share your location because I want to make sure that the Uber finds me if I order it, so I'm happy to share that location. With the IDFA, I think the general industry consensus, and again, it's hard to speculate, but the general industry consensus is that we'll have similar opt-out rates, 70%, potentially even higher. So what this means then is that publishers need to, again, lean on their first-party data. So the IDFA and the app tracking transparency framework that Apple has rolled out is all around device data. But publishers have user-level relationships with their consumers. They have relationships that transcend devices. So perhaps I log in with a major publisher on my desktop and I subscribe to their newspaper. Then I want to read it on my iPad so that I don't have to have my laptop with me. So I log into their app. Well, now I have multiple touch points and I can log in with an email address, creating a first-party CRM relationship. And those relationships can still be connected to marketers because that's governed by separate consent given to the publisher separately from the IDFA. So there's device level identity and then there's user level identity. I think we're seeing a severe degradation in device level identity, but the opportunity for publishers to develop user level relationships. So again, we would encourage publishers to look at the iOS 14 changes as a big deal. They should look at how they can establish first-party relationships with their consumers, and they should look at how they can then leverage those first-party relationships to connect with marketer demand and drive measurement. From a LiveRamp perspective, we're going to be maintaining both a consented IDFA graph, where there is users sharing their consent with that IDFA, and then we have also rolled out our authenticated traffic solution and made that available for mobile app in addition to display and connected TV. So I think one of the things that we're really focused on is making it easier for brands to interact directly with publishers. So there's a bunch of ad tech in the middle that sits between publishers and brands. And often that's where some of the transparency gets lost. Now, I think we can make that transparency easier. One of the reasons we have transparency is not due to malintent, but instead due to data inefficiencies. If you lose data along the way, you lose the ability to be transparent. So our focus is on making it easier to connect publisher first-party relationships to brand first-party relationships. This allows the brand to better understand, okay, which publishers am I buying inventory from? What type of inventory am I buying? What's the identity behind that inventory? With ATS, the brand knows that it's buying a user who has a first-party relationship with that publisher, that's connecting with someone who's logged in the past 30 days with that publisher. So it has a better understanding of that. I think it's also important that the brand is able to measure everything they buy. Today, if I buy an impression on Safari, what result did that drive? Did that user then come to my website? Did they go into my store? Did they buy a product? I don't know. All I know is that I paid $3 for a CPM on Safari, or probably a bit less because the CPMs are reduced. But I bought this impression and I have no idea what happened with it. Well, when you buy on Identity Link, you get 100% measurable impressions. So one of our big arguments to brands is make sure that every impression that you buy is measurable. The key to understanding what's happening in the ecosystem and to then forcing transparency with your partners and advocating for that is having lots of data and having that ability to understand. And so that's why we really emphasize the importance of buying on people-based identity and then measuring everything that you buy.